Hello everyone, my name is Jasmo, and with me is Bronwyn.
How you doing?
And we are doing the Watch Me Work Critique show today. We've got 3 pieces, 2 digital and 1 photograph, and we'll be starting with this piece by Cosmos Kitty on DeviantArt. And we're going to start with the drawing side.
Hi, Chris. So yeah, we probably won't have time to go into every little thing about it. But a couple of things stood out to me as easily correctable. The first thing that stood out to me was the neck, in that it doesn't seem to connect to anything down here. And so if you're going to do an elongated neck, which by proportion this would be an elongated neck, you can kind of put in some little hints of collarbone and neck shape and stuff like that, so that the neck seems anchored to something. So you don't have to put in absolutely everything, but you can put in a little bit of collarbone, a couple of lines in the neck area. You can, if you're going to elongate the neck, you kind of have to elongate everything else proportionately. And so the triangle that attaches the bottom of the chin to the middle of the neck would also be elongated, as well as the muscles that attach the back of the head to the actual neck, and the ear by proportion would also have to be elongated, so that the jawbone wouldn't seem super emasculine or super masculine and wide. You would also drop down the ear a little bit. And since it's hidden by the hair, if you didn't want such a large ear, of course, you wouldn't have to put it in. So if you want to do an elongated neck, you should still put in the basic landmarks of the neck. Second of all, the planes of the face are a little bit off, but more specifically I want to talk about the eye. So first of all, the eye shape of this eye is a tiny bit off. If you were to hide a little bit more of this tear duct here, it would read as a little bit more frontwise than this eye, which kind of reads as sideways. So that's just going to be a sort of in perspective repetition thing. Where you have to draw the eye from many angles to get a feel for, when you're drawing in this in particular perspective, what shape the eye should be. The second thing is the direction that the eye is actually pointing in. If you were to draw a little dot as to where the eye is actually looking, this eye is looking here, and then this eye is looking here. It's pretty tricky placing eyes 100% of the time looking in the right direction, but a general guideline for you would be measuring the white space of the eye. It should be about equal for both eyes, no matter what direction you're actually pointing the eye in. So if one of the eyes is going to be in the corner, both of them should be in the corner. If one of them is going to be centered, both of them should be centered, regardless of which direction the head is actually facing. Naturally, humans turn their head when they're looking in a certain direction. So when they're looking up, the chin will be slightly pointed upward. When they're looking to the right or to the left, you'll see a little bit more of one side than you would in any other pose. So you would see a little bit more of this side of the face. Let's see here. So you do have a couple of things going on with the mouth and the nose. A lot of this is me just trying to work out how to place these things, but you can actually start correcting yourself in the sketching stage by starting with the nose that you've already drawn. So if you already have your nose like penciled in, you can draw this plane of the front of your nose, and then draw a secondary plane across it, and then another plane down, and then you should be able to follow this plane all the way down the front of the face, like without going into the construction of the lip, the construction of the chin, that sort of thing. You should actually read very strong plane changes, even in a really subtle face. So these things might have been what threw off your rendering a little bit. In addition to that, the nose specifically, the nostril isn't actually attached to the face, which in a real person it kind of is. So you would actually reach back and drop this into the face, and then you would put this crease much farther back to give your nose some volume. You did get it right here, where you don't actually attach the nostril and this crease, but the nostril does need to at least read as being attached to the face. And then if you look at your septum here, this is actually attached to this crease here. So this is your actual septum to the nose, which is, where people hang those piercings and things. That is measured out by this crease in the mouth, which one day I will learn an anatomical name for.
Chris,
which I don't know.
Yeah, Chris has a question about the eye. Is it supposed to be looking that way, though?
So if this eye is supposed to be looking this way, then this eye can't be looking to the crease of her nose, because it looks like she's cross-eyed a little bit. If that is the case, you would angle the eye upward more like this, so that they read as looking in the same direction. So it's about reading. Even if you took a picture of somebody and that was the way their eyes actually were in the picture, when you're reproducing something in art, you have to make artistic decisions with what actually reads in the picture, rather than basing everything 100% off of reality. Because sometimes reality doesn't look good in a picture.
Very, very true.
So the very last thing is the lighting sources. I went ahead and drew out these arrows pretty much all over the place. Oops. Can we get rid of all the red that I penciled all over the place here? Nope. Too much red. Let's see here. Direction. Oop. No, that's not it. Light sources. There they are. So I went ahead and penciled in these kind of arrows to show where all the light sources seem to be coming from. You have light hitting the chin under here, light hitting the neck here, on top of the bow ties, and none of these things can be they can't be pulled together in the same lighting source, so that causes a type of confusion. Even if you had 3 lighting sources, they still wouldn't be going in all of these directions. And these 2 lighting sources in particularly are given away by the shinies in your eye here and here. There in anime, there isn't really a rhyme or reason with eye shinies, which might be the stylistic choice that you chose, in which case it's perfectly fine. But with the highlights of the hair and the neck and the side of the neck here, the water, the front of the face, the side of the face, there's an inconsistency going on. And then, of course, you've got a couple shadows here that don't have highlight friends, which I know from the wonderful Jasmo and the wonderful Bob Ross, is that even though I suck at coloring, shadows should have a friend, and this friend should be highlight. So from there, I'm going to have to give you over to Jasmo.
Awesome, thank you. I touched up. I did a small paint over, but this is the original. I wanted to mention, keep in mind the planes of the face and the muscles underneath, even for like really subtle lighting. And here's kind of the planes of the face and how they're shaped, because on your face this is shaped mostly this way, and that's kind of how your shadows should lay. Is you got the nice bright spots where they should be, but your shadows are missing in this area of the face and also along the nose just a little bit to help dictate where your light source is coming from just a little bit better. And let's see if I can...
You did some tweaking.
I did some tweaking. The corrections that I made, I did tweak the eye a little bit to get it set more in perspective. I did that with a liquify tool, but color-wise, or lighting-wise, I added in highlights. I gave them buddies. I gave the shadows a little highlight buddy down here on the jaw, and up here on the nose, actually, is a lot of people's bane. Your shadow is actually where your light should be hitting on the face, on a normal person's nose. Any person's nose will light up this way. If light shines this way, your shadow will be on the nostril itself instead of behind it, which helps actually attach your nose to this part of your face. Let's see. I also put a little more underlighting underneath the nose because reflected light. That's what these things are right here. These shadow highlight buddies, those are the reflected light because you will have light reflect off of your skin up onto your own skin. And let's see, on your water, I've observed many times on water that if your light source is coming from one side, you'll have a nice shiny spot just on that one side, and then almost all of this is shadow on the inside with a nice highlight on the other to show that light is passing through it. And you, for the most part, have that on your light. I would only recommend that you put a stronger highlight here and then move these to the back side of your dripping water here. Oh yeah, that's the light source. And I put in a little bit of shadow on the neck to help denote that there is some muscle and some anatomy lying under the skin, even though it is exaggerated. There you go. Hair-wise, your hair is actually pretty great. The only thing is you might want to have deeper shadows in the back here.
Yeah, I really like the hair. Just gotta throw that in, Cosmo.
Yeah, the hair is really nice. I like how you put it out into its own separate chunks. It looks very stylized. And like even the colors, using the pink for the highlights, that helps keep your whole piece looking very cohesive. The only thing, yeah, the shadows. Deeper shadows in these crevices, I would have chose a much darker blue than your cobalt blue that you have everywhere else. Either a midnight blue or even sneak it up into slightly the purple range, because you do have purple in your background, and you can help bring that in on those nice dark spots. And your shadows, I fuzzied out your shadows. I made them a little bit more gentle. I've noticed that they were really sharp, like really sharp, and usually shadows are very soft, except for when they get really close to the thing that is casting the shadow. So the farther away the thing is from the thing it is casting light out shadow on. That was terrible wording.
You got it. The farther away the cast shadow is from the object that is casting the shadow, the fuzzier it is.
Yes.
Bam.
Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you much. And I'll do a little like this is my paint over tweak, and this is your original, so you can see the difference. I did use the liquefying tool equivalent to kind of move a few things around. But other than that, yeah.
And Cosmo Kitty, if you're in the chat, we can totally do an after show where we go over all the things that I didn't cover on the drawing side and Jasmine didn't get a chance to cover on the painting side.
True.
So if you're interested, you see this video, after the fact, you can go ahead and hit us up. That's totally fine.
And you can do that by sending me an email at this address is jasmin@watchmework.com. I think that's all the time we have for this piece.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So next up is a piece, Marceline fan art by Franco Robichaud, also on DeviantArt. And Bronwyn, take it away with the drawing side.
So we've got Marceline from Adventure Time, piece of fan art. A lot of people in my house are really big fans of Adventure Time. I know that the character you based this off of is extremely stylized, not very much anatomy, not very much proportion, but it's my little sister saw me just looking at it, and she could identify it right off the bat, so there must be a lot of similarities to the character in here, so good job for that. A couple of things with your anatomy. The first thing that stood out to me is that the hands and the arms look extremely masculine, and you can make a female look like muscular without making them look masculine. When you are trying to keep a elongated proportion, like the torso and the hips being a little longer, you don't also have to elongate the entire arm. You can actually just elongate the fingers, and that will keep you in that mid proportion, because let's see here, if you were to when you divide it and do all your proportions, this is the midpoint. And yes, absolutely, your fingers are hitting the right spot, but everything else got distorted while you were doing that. Yes, your elbow hit the right spot, but again, it's elongated. So by tweaking a couple things to make it look more feminine, you can keep the proportion without necessarily over bulking it. So these are just a couple of little drawovers I did to keep in mind some things that you could tweak if you felt like painting this over, or if you ever do another piece like it, you can absolutely do it. So the first thing is, like I said, this arm has some anatomy issues. You can measure out from your elbow to the top of your deltoid, and that halfway point is where the bottom of the deltoid should hit. And then following along that curve, that is where this muscle that attaches to the thumb actually comes from, right here. And then you can make it muscular by pointing it outward, not necessarily by making it like longer, like this. You would point it outward in a bulk like this, and then by squeezing in the elbows here and the wrists here and here, you can give it a more feminine look, even though it's really muscular. Sorry. Another thing that happens when you over detail female hands is they have a habit of looking like male anatomy hands. And you can get away with doing a couple things, like if you want the hands to look very detailed and weathered or anything like that, you can add fingernails, and that gives your hand like a very feminine look, even though they're more detailed hands. But generally, you should point your hands, your fingertips, even a little bit. Like here's a square. You should point them a little bit, even if this person isn't supposed to have fingernails. Or you should position the fingers slightly together, because that can make a hand look more feminine. Same thing here, just squeezing in the wrists. Landmarks right here on the pinky side of the wrist. There are these bones that stick out, and those are landmarks that let us know which side of the hand we are actually looking at. The bottom of the rib cage tells you where the belly button should be. So right here is where your belly button should be, and I think you placed it down here. So just keep that in mind. And then you aren't the first, and I know you won't be the last. The female chest anatomy is just like the male chest anatomy. The pectoralis attaches underneath the deltoid and curves around and attaches to the sternum. Same thing for the other side, except for you don't see it, because sitting on top of the pectoralis, there is a comma-shaped bag of flesh called the breast, and this flesh should tuck or attach underneath the deltoid. Attaching it to the top gives you enemy titty syndrome, and it is not a good syndrome to have for your piece. You can add curvature on top of it, but as long as your musculature looks like it's going in the right way, you can have all the fun you want with the cleavage. Do I have time to go into how you can measure out the proportions of the shoulders?
Nope.
Jazz? Okay, so taking it away, Jazz.
All right. I've only got lighting tips, and it's really the only thing.
Oh, Isabel is here.
Oh, hi, Isabel. Yeah, the only thing that I noticed is that you don't have a one consistent light source, or two in this case, because you do have the moon, and the only reason I say that is because it kind of looks like you have 3 light sources, but it's not showing up all over the piece. I noticed your main light source, I think that you wanted, was coming from below, because the nose is very, very detailed on the below side. You've got the nice shiny right here on the jaw, a nice bright spot on the earlobe, and this right above the eye is good. These are all great landmarks for where your lighting should be coming from, except you then have light coming this way on the chest, but just on the skin, not on the shirt. Your light for the shirt is actually coming at like this angle, kind of like from where we're looking at, and you have the shadow underneath. Whereas Your lighting, if you wanted dramatic lighting and having just a two-way light source, the moon, definitely. Kick light, handled very well, especially on the branches, on her leg, on the axe. I added in just a touch up here on her hair.
Yes, it is Marceline.
Yes, it is Marceline. Wow, people can totally recognize. I think
and
it is.
the like green skin and the black hair. Those are the things that I noticed about the character when I was looking it up. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if the artist ever watches this, I want you to know that those shoes are flippin' phenomenal, and I drew hearts over them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the boots are great, but they're also lit with that sort of imaginary light source, where I'm reading there should only really be two really strong ones, so I tweaked things a little bit because this would have light on it, because light's coming from below. You would also have light on the bottom of the boot, and it would highlight the back of the heel here, so right here is great, but yeah, this is a phenomenal job. This this would be in shadow though, because of her leg blocking the moonlight. And there would not be light on top of her hand here. It would only be lighting pretty much just these parts of her fingers and like the very tip of her thumb, and maybe right here. You would have more light on this part of your wrist than the whole forearm, which I kind of goofed. And you'd have light here, here.
Sorry, the chat.
There, I know. Outfit and the guitar. I do have one note to make and congratulate you on, is this reflected red light on her skin. This is great. It is very subtle, and you carried it also onto her shirt. It is awesome. Not many people actually have the mind to do this reflected light, but it makes things more believable. And it just seems correct. Yeah, overall it just seems more correct because it's in there, and our brains know it should be in there. And that's pretty much all I had to say. It was just tweak to the... If you wanted a more dramatic light source, you would have just the two, the one from below and the one from the moon, and putting basically the rest of things more in shadow. Yeah, the chest, basically everything there. And Bronwyn, do you have anything else?
For this piece?
Mm-hmm.
I did. Just on how you can get to the correct proportions for like the collarbone and shoulder area. If you lasso the head and use it as a ruler, I do this a lot when I'm actually looking to see what might be off about a picture. I take the character's head, I lasso it, I copy it, I paste it, and then I use it as a ruler to see where things should fall. So a good rule to keep is 1/3 of the face. Sorry, that's not quite a third. 1/3 of the face is about where your collarbone should be. Even when you're looking at it in perspective, the landmark will pretty much be in the same place. And so that's how I found where your neck should be in this instance, was using your own drawing. And then after that, it's all pretty much like the same anatomy that you drew in. Just bringing down the neck, bringing down the muscle of the soul, the muscles of the actual like column of the neck, and then the trapezius. A lot of people forget to put in there for a female because they think that the trapezius is a masculine male muscle, but it isn't. It actually adds a really graceful slope to the shoulders, even more powerful shoulders, which you could bulk out like this. That's actually what makes females look more feminine, not less. So that's all I really had. I could do a whole hour on perspective, but we're just gonna leave it at that for right now.
Okay. So next up is a photograph by Studio HQ, also on DeviantArt, and it is a photograph, and
unfortunately she is fetching and carrying a teenager right now,
okay.
So she can't be on the show.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Sure. So there's lots of different ways for you to crop or alter a photograph to like make it more interesting. You can use the same photograph and get like, more than a dozen pieces out of it. So this is the original. For me, I would take advantage of the black space in here, and the way you take advantage, in my mind, of the black space is you make a lot less of it. So this is the correct, or not the correct, this is the altered version in my mind, and it does a couple of things for me. One, it gives your eye somewhere to go, so it gives you a pathway. Second of all, it gives you a gradient, so a dark to light, which because of Jasmin, I know that this red will be dark no matter what you do, no matter what value you set for your photograph, red is dark. And then it gives you contrast, so you have literally almost black and white right here. So for me, this sort of composition, well, I didn't even think of rotating it. I had it more like this, and then Jasmine was like, try rotating it. And I was like, ooh, I like it. It gives you a path. I like paths. Also, you have like contour in here with these curves. So you got a lot of nice like contrast. You have a curve here, you have two curves going here, you have a gradient going off this way. So yeah, just keep in mind that, you know, crop your image different ways and take a look at it in different perspectives and see if there's actually a perspective that you like a lot more. You know what I mean? And Photoshop, which I know you have, Studio, you can actually just grab it and rotate it like this to see if there's any orientation that you like a lot more than your original orientation. You can crop accordingly. That's really all I had for it. Like, this would be what I would do to the picture. And you, Jasmo?
And I would do kind of something similar. I've noticed a lot of times when people take silhouette pictures, they usually leave a little bit too much black in the photograph to make it look balanced. If I had a choice, I would actually want about this much of the picture and crop out most of the black, still leaving a little bit of a line, but having this much more sky and sunset or whatever this is, because you can't really tell. That would be a really like cool postcard. And that would be a good balance for a postcard, but artistically, I would still cut out most of the black, but I would actually flip it. Because for me, I read left to right. Most people read left to right, and I really, really like the flow of left to right. It does. It draws your eye upward, even though this is sloping the other way. Because this kind of...
Because it adds curve. Like,
yeah.
Your curve does start on the right.
Mm-hmm. Well, it curves downward, but this dark spot up here, it's an anchor, and it draws your eye up yonder. So let's flip. Oh, can I flip? Flip. There you go. This seems to me to be falling, and then the direction definitely goes down this way. I'm not entirely sure why that my eye is drawn in that direction for that particular orientation of the photo, but it's drawn the opposite way. This way up here.
And Isabel says she likes it this way. She likes the third part of the picture because to her it makes, I'm guessing she says, like stripes of black, pink, and white. I would have tried to have the outline of the flower to lighten it up. Yeah. The name of this is Albuquerque Cactus Sunset, which I believe was taken in Albuquerque, New Mexico last year in November. Sorry, go ahead, Jess.
I was going to try and outline it.
Yeah, because that was one of my first and like oh man, I wish that there had been some sort of rim light on it. I totally agree. Go for it.
The question is like how bright does it need to be? Because the sunset isn't very strong, and it would actually probably have a glowy orangey color on it, and it would probably be only on this side, and that was like if we had a really strong sunset instead of like a gentle sunset, that this would do this. Paint. Paint.
You can do it, Chaz.
Probably, I don't know. We'll do that. Fuzz, blur just a little bit.
Doing a paint over. Pretty
much. Well, just a little bit of It's either
Photo
called,
editing.
yeah, photo editing, usually called rim lighting or even a kick light.
So let's zoom out. Let's see what we got. Ooh,
It kind
I
of looks
like it.
cartoony. It looks cartoony because of the way that I painted in, but it does have an impact. And
It does have an impact. You get a little bit more sense of form or shape in there.
Yep. I think those are the other places that would need it. Yeah. Oh yeah, that looks cartoony as all get out, but it also looks kind of neat.
It does look neat. I agree. So yeah, if anybody has any art to submit, or if you want to catch this again, it will be on iTunes under your critique show as a podcast, free to download.
Indeed. And if you also want to stick around for an after show, please let us know. Email us during the show if you would like us to keep going. We'll take like a little 5-minute break, turn off the stream, get it back up and running again for the after show, or hit us up when we normally stream. Bronwyn and I both normally stream 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and we would be more than happy to carve out a couple of hours, and we can do it either individually or together, because we like to co-work.
Quite.
And with that, that is our show, folks. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you artists sending in your work for us to critique. It's quite a lot of fun, and hopefully we were helpful.
Yes, hopefully you learned something and not just like, yeah, but I like it the way it was. No, I'm kidding.
True. Yeah, so if you have work, please send it into this email address. We'll sign you up for the next available Wednesday, and with that, we will catch you guys all next time.